So, this first question on the top of 5.2 notes says find the measure of angle 1. So, I got this question a lot yesterday. Is this 1 degree? No. It's just the name of the angle instead of a bunch of letters. It's 1. You can kind of look at what you're given. You know there's 3 angles in a triangle. What do you know they add up to? 180. We know this one is 40 degrees, and this one is 3 times whatever x is. We have nothing about this angle other than its name is 1. You cannot name it x. Can anybody guess why you cannot just slap an x there? Yeah, then you would try to combine, like, there's already an x here, right? So x already represents something. Do we know what that represents? No. Okay, so we can't just, like, throw in an x. It would throw everything off. So you can't add these up, set them equal to 180. But what you can do is see that we have 2 interior angles that are not adjacent to the exterior. We learned there was a relationship between these angles. What relationship was that? They do not add up to 180. The 2 non-adjacent interior, what do? What do? They equal the exterior. So the 2 non-adjacent interior add up and equal the exterior. So that is what we are doing. 40 plus 3x will equal 5x minus 10. Move the smaller x, which is 3x. What's 5x minus 3x? 2x. Minus 10. What do I do next? Move the 10. I'm going to add it. 2x equals 50. Divide by 2. And x equals 25. Is that what it asked for? No. It asked for the measure of angle 1. There's 2 ways to find it. We're going to do both just to kind of prove it. But what would you like to do first? Where can we plug in x to help us find the measure of angle 1? Yeah, we could do the 3x. 3 times 25, which is 75. So we know that we got 75 degrees and 40 degrees. We are missing that angle 1. So what can I do? Add them and subtract from 180. So add 40 plus 75, which is 115. Subtract from 180. So what is the measure of angle 1? 65. Okay, so again, we plugged it in here at 3 times 25. Option 2, I could plug it into the exterior. If I plug it in there, what's 5 times 25? If I have 5 quarters, how much money do I have? $1.25. Thank you. Subtract 10. So what is the measure of the exterior angle? 115. So think about this. If the exterior is 115, what relationship does the exterior have with the adjacent interior? They're a linear pair, which means they have to add up to what number? 180. Does 65 plus 115 make 180? Yeah, that's how we got it in the first place. So either way you had done it, you would have gotten it correct. So there's going to be, I think, 2 questions like this on the quiz. Number 4, what kind of triangle do we have? A right triangle. It says find the measure of each acute angle. How many acute angles are there in a right triangle? 2. So what do we know about the 3 angles in a triangle? They add up to 180. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to move this over. So we're going to have 2x plus x minus 6. What is my third angle? 90. Plus 90 will equal 180. Combine like terms, we got 2x and x, which make 3x. Minus 6 plus 90 is positive 84. And that equals 180. Subtract 84.
96.
It is 96. Divide by 3. X equals 32. Do I circle this?
No.
No. I need to plug it back in. 2 times 32 is 64. And then 32 minus 6 is 26. What's a good way I could check to see if my answer is correct? Add them up and see if they equal 180. Are you okay with this? Yeah. 2 plus 6. No. Yes, 26. Yeah, we did. So sorry. We did plug it back in. Good. So this section is over congruent polygons. What does congruent mean? Same measure. I think that's where you're going. Or same what? Same measure, same length. And then a polygon, what do we think a polygon is? Is a shape, okay? There are qualifications to it, but for lack of better terms, shape. So congruent shapes. Look in this room and let's find some congruent polygons, y'all. What do we think?
That door and that door.
The tables, I guess. Yeah. The doors. That's good. What else? Yeah, my paintings up here, they're all 12 by 12. All 50 stars, they are polygons. What kind of a polygon is a star? Y'all did it in your decagon. That's it. All of them are congruent. They all have the same length. They all have the same angle measure. That's what makes them congruent. So that's what we're talking about in this section. You're going to fill in the blanks. You'll see like halfway through the page. Some of the blanks aren't big enough. I'm very sorry. It is what it is. We will all do okay. Ready? So it says when two figures are congruent, I think that's your first blank. When two figures are congruent, there is a correspondence. Write really small. So when two figures are congruent, there is a correspondence between their angles and sides such that corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are congruent. So when two figures are congruent, there is a correspondence between their angles and sides such that corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are congruent. Which of you is the squeaker? It's yours. It used to be up here. So you're going to take your highlighter. We're going to highlight the most important part of this. You have two jackets on? Oh my word. Alright, so take out your highlighter. We're going to highlight the most important part. Alright, so ready? Corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding sides are congruent. That's the most important part. Go ahead and highlight it. Corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding sides are congruent. And I will explain what corresponding means. Corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are congruent. So in this section, basically these shapes have been copied and pasted. So every single angle corresponds with another angle, meaning an angle matches an angle on the other shape. So like in this picture, obviously mine is color-coded. Yours is in black and white. The quiz is in black and white. But if you look, you need to match the amount of tick marks. So like A has like one line, right? What angle does it match on the other shape? D. So they're corresponding with each other. They're congruent to each other. The same thing with the line segments. CB has one tick mark. I'll highlight it. So it is corresponding with the other segment that has one tick mark. Okay? That's what it means by corresponding. If you don't like that word, it means matching. So you see there's two blanks on your notes. It says corresponding angles and corresponding sides. We're about to fill that in. We're going to fill in the corresponding angles that are congruent. Okay, so let's start with this. You're going to write angle A in the box. So angle A is congruent to, and then we're going to decide. Angle A has one arc. We already said what it's congruent to. Angle D. So you should have angle A is congruent to angle D. You don't have to write what's in yellow down there. Just we're listing congruent angles. So angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B has 3 arcs. It is congruent to angle E. And then angle C has 2 arcs. It is congruent to angle F. This second part is a little more meticulous because the order in which you write them does matter. If we say segment, with a line above it, segment AB, go ahead and write that one in. Segment AB, it is congruent to another segment. It has 2 tick marks. It's congruent to the line with 2 tick marks. The order that you say it matters. If I say A first, you need to write the corresponding letter first in the second part. So what corresponds with A? D. And then after D, we got, what's going to go next? E. So DE, you can kind of see it better with my color coordinating. It absolutely matters. If I had said BA, you would have needed to say ED. All right, the second set says BC, like before Corona. Put a line above it. It is congruent to
EF.
Do we agree? Yes, we agree. EF. Sorry, I wasn't looking at my picture. BC, with a line above it, is congruent to segment EF. And then segment AC is congruent to segment I said AC.
So it's FD.
So it is nope.
And then FD, right?
You said a corresponding angle.
Color, yep. A came first, so what letter needs to come first? D. And then F. You say that, but you were saying it the other way. You were, okay. As long as we're on the same page. All right, perfect. Not very difficult, right? We're okay? All right, so this next section, you got another box down there. It says congruent statement. You're going to highlight around the box because this part is not difficult, but if you don't know what the question is asking for, you're not going to answer it correctly. A congruent statement is saying this polygon is congruent to this polygon. It's a statement. You name each polygon. The order of the letters still matters. So here's an example, or half of an example. You can write in the box, triangle ABC. So yes, you need the triangle symbol. That's how we name a triangle. Triangle ABC is congruent. We need to name the other triangle. So we're going to say triangle DEF. Yep. The order does matter. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF because A and D correspond, B and E correspond, C and F correspond. Another way, there's many ways to write this. What if I said triangle BCA? What would it be congruent to? EFD. You're correct. Here's why this matters so much. So you're not writing this down. I'm just showing you why the order matters. Let's say we had LMNO is congruent to PQRS. These pictures, just ignore all the pictures. You're just looking at this in purple. On your quiz and test, you're going to need to be able to read this statement and tell me what is congruent. So if I said angle M is congruent to, and I left a blank, you need to read this statement and tell me what it's congruent to. It'd be angle Q, because they're both the second, there's Q. They're both the second letter. No, it's not Q.
R.
Guys, what M, oh, M, no, I was right. M is right. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I didn't see the L. It kind of like camouflaged in. It was right. Sorry. M is the second letter. Q is the second letter. They're correct. No, I know. It caught me too because this looks, handwriting matters, y'all. What if I said ON, segment ON? What would it be congruent with? SR, Reagan. It's okay. So O is the last letter, S is the last letter, N is the second to last, and R is the second to last. Good. So that's why the statement matters so much. You got to make sure the order it's matching. Okay. You can go ahead and flip when you're ready. There's a blank. It says theorem 5.4. This is called the third angles theorem. You're going to fill that in. Third angles theorem. What you looking at? Okay. Third angles theorem. And I'm going to explain it to you. It says if two angles of one triangle, so you're filling it in, if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, so if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angles are also congruent. If two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another, then the third angles are congruent. Let's show why. Let's pick some numbers to prove this. Give me an acute angle. 60, that's fine. And then give me the measure of another.
30.
Okay. We want a right triangle, apparently. This is not accurate, just so you know. The picture isn't. But according to this, B and E are congruent. So what's the measure of E? 60. A and D are marked congruent, so D is measured 30. So here's what this theorem says. If they have two congruent angles, the third angles have to be congruent too. And here's why. What is 30 plus 60? 90. Subtract that from 180. What does this angle have to be? 90. That's why it's super inaccurate. It's fine. The same thing here. We got 60 and 30. What's 60 plus 30? 90. What's 180 minus 90? Still 90. So because these two angles were congruent, the third angle has to also be congruent because there's only one way for three numbers to add up to 180. Okay? We're going to use that in whenever it goes next slide. Here we go. This is when we use it. I would put a star next to it. You're going to see this question on the quiz and the test. The only thing that's going to change are the numbers. There are so many ways to solve math problems. There are so many ways to solve this problem. I'm going to show you the shortest way. If you don't like it, I'm going to also show you the longer way. But maybe if you're more geometry minded, it makes sense to you. So our goal is to find BDC. So our goal is to find this angle. This 30 only represents a sliver of it. Is it half of it? No, there's no indication that it's half, okay? So we need to find this corner, this angle. We only know that this is 30 degrees. What else can we see in this picture?
C is 30 degrees.
This part of C is 30 degrees as well because they have two arcs and two arcs. What else can we see? B is 45 because it has one arc, just like angle A. So this is where we can differ in methods. So here's what I do. These are like two triangles overlapping, right? Everyone sees it. So what you can do is focus on the triangle in question, right? If you were to redraw it, B, D, C. All I did was copy the letters B, D, C, B, D, C. What was the measure of angle B? 45. And the measure of angle C? 30. We want to find the measure of BDC, right? This angle. So if it were drawn like this and not overlapping, what would we do? Add them, 30 and 45, which makes 75. And then what do we do, Josh? Subtract from 180. So 180 minus 75 is 105. So we're going to say the measure of angle BDC is 105 degrees. I'm going to show you the second way. Some of you may like it, some of you may not, and that's fine. It is longer, but it'll get you the same answer. Are you ready? Okay. So I'm going to keep the 35 and I'm always going to interchange them. The 30 and the 45, I'm going to leave them alone. Here's what you could do. You can just go where the most information is. I know this is 30 and this is 30, and they're sitting in a triangle, right? How many degrees are in a triangle? 180. How much is already taken up by the two 30s? 60. So how much remains for this top angle? 120. Okay, is everyone okay with the 120? You're not okay with the 120? Okay. What relationship does 120 have with the angle right next to it? They're a linear pair, which means they're going to add up to 180. So what's the measure of this angle? 60. This is the second to last step. I told you it was longer, but it's going to be the same answer. Is everyone okay with, we just went where the most information was, and we'll just keep on moving. This is a triangle, right? We have two of the angles in a triangle. We could find this third angle, right?
Yep.
How do we find the third angle?
60 plus 45.
60 plus 45, which makes 105.
Yep.
Subtract from 180. So what's the measure of this angle? 75. All of that to say, what is the measure of BDC, this whole angle? 105, because what is 75 plus 30? 105. There are a lot of ways to solve this. I'm just letting you know. Capiche? You can like the way I did and I took it apart, or you can like this method too. Are you okay to flip? Okay. All right, I want you to take your highlighter and go ahead and highlight that congruent statement right there. Because I don't want you looking at this picture and making guesses, because you're probably going to be wrong. They flip them, they turn them. This statement is everything you need to know. Because with this statement, I know that angle D, what is angle D going to be congruent with? Angle S, because they're both the first letter in the statement. Okay, so make sure you read those. We're going to find, part A, I'm just going to write A. We're going to find the value of X. There are two X's. Which one is easier to find? That 2x minus 4. Let's talk about this one. Is it an angle or a side? It's a side. How do I know that it is a side? Because it's on the outside. How else do I know it's a side? Missing the most important part. It says feet. You don't measure angles in feet or inches or meters or any of that. So it is a side length. So let's go back to our statement over here. We've got QR. It is the last two letters. What is QR going to be congruent to? FG. Okay, QR and FG. So what is 2x minus 4 going to equal? How many feet is it going to equal? 12. So that's what we're going to set it equal to. 2x minus 4 will equal 12. The goal here is to find the value of x. It's not to find what the length of QR is. So we're going to add 4. 12 plus 4 is 16. Divide by 2. X equals 8. All right, let's talk about y. The only y is right here. Is it a side or an angle? It's an angle. How do I know it's an angle? It's on the inside. How else do I know it's an angle? It doesn't say feet. It has a little degree symbol, a little bubble. So what angle is it attached to? Q. According to this statement, what is Q corresponding with? F. So what do we know? 6y plus x is going to equal 68. So when you set this up, you still got two variables, but we know the value of one of them, don't we? Which one do we know?
X.
We know x is 8, so we're going to plug in, because we found it earlier. Subtract 8. 68 minus 8 is 60. Divide by 6, and y equals 10. All right, we do one more. So take your highlighter again. Highlight that congruent statement. This one especially, you want to make sure you're reading this. Because question 1 is probably the bane of my existence all year. I don't love grading this because it's a lot. It says identify all pairs of congruent corresponding parts. So here's what it's asking for. All congruent angles and all congruent sides. I would write that in so that you answer the questions correctly whenever you see them. So it wants all congruent angles and all congruent sides. So I wouldn't even look at the picture. I would just look at the statement. Let's start with angles. And don't be a crazy person. Like, here's what I mean by that. Just go in order of the letters and make your life easy, because if you just pick, like, I just want to start with letter G, like, that's weird. Just, let's start with A. Is that okay with everyone? Let's be organized. Angle A. What is angle A going to be congruent with in the other? Angle C. What would we like to do next? Angle B is going to be congruent to angle D. Angle G is going to be congruent to angle E. And angle H is going to be congruent to angle F. So make sure when you're naming angles, you got your angle symbol, capital letters. That's how we name angles. Now we're going to name side lengths. The same thing. You're going to be naming sides. Just don't pick random ones and at any will, you know. Go in order. What do you think? What do we want our first one to be? AB. What is AB congruent with? CD. So we're naming side lengths. Make sure you've got that bar above. That means, we're not naming side. Line segments is what I was going for. We got AB. What's the next one? Sure. GH. GH. If I say GH, then the second one is going to be EF. So Reagan, if you say HG, it's not wrong. You just need to say FE. There are 4 sides, so we need 4 of these. What's the next one? AH. What is AH going to be congruent to?
C. Oh, no.
CF. So A is the first letter, H is the last, C is the first letter, F is the last. There is one more. BG and DE. Yep. Wonderful. This is like my least favorite section to grade. Normally on your quiz, I will try to have this written, like angle A is congruent to, and I'll leave a blank, because that's so much easier to grade than, you know. The second, find the value of x. Is x a side or an angle? It's an angle. It's at angle H. So what angle is it going to correspond with in the second? F. So what is, 4x plus 5 will equal 105. You're correct. Subtract 5. 4x equals 100. Divide by 4. X equals 25. I would keep these notes out. We're going to do whiteboards. This first question is, I'm going to tell you if you formatted it correctly. Keep it on your board, and then we can actually check it. Here's what that means. You're going to write another congruent statement for this figure. You can show me. I'm not going to check the order of the letters. We're going to check them all together so that I don't have to read the same thing 8 million times for different things. To write another congruence statement. If you don't know what that is on page 1. Your whiteboard. Yeah. You should have highlighted the box that it was in. You can show me, and I'm not gonna check the letters. I'm just gonna. You did write down what I'm looking for, so you can check the letters after. That looks good for now. Don't erase it. This is the only question to do this. I just want to make sure you're knowing what it asks for when I say congruent statement. So write another congruent statement. What does the word another mean? It means they're different than the one they gave us. They already gave us one. So you want a congruent statement. That's a congruent statement. You want a different one? The easiest that I've seen is people write it backwards. K, J, H, G is congruent to T, S, R, Q. What else did we write? Sorry, H, J, K, G. That's what you said? So he started here. So R, S, T, Q. I've seen that one. What else? J, H, G. What? J, H. There's so much. Do you see why I did not want to look at this? J, H, G, K is congruent to S, R, Q, T. So does anybody want to say theirs to make sure they got it right? H, G, K, J, R, Q, T, S. Okay. I don't like that one. Next one. This one's easy. Well, I think it is. You're going to do one at a time. Here's what this means, one at a time. I want you to do number 5. You're going to answer what's in black and in purple. And you do need to write this part first. Because on the quiz, I need you to know the difference of what they're asking here. This is me checking to know that you know the difference between the two. So start with 5 and then check it. Then 6 and then check it. You got to answer both parts of 5. So just make sure you name the angles. Correct. So one of them we didn't answer correctly. So when it says this M, this little m, what does this mean? Measure. So what should your answer look like? A number. So what's helpful is doing this part first. What is angle Y congruent with? N. What is the measure of N? So the measure of Y is 124. So go ahead and move on to number 6 if you haven't already. So what is M going to be congruent to? M like Marshall? X. And X is 33, so M is also 33. Go ahead and move on to 7 if you haven't already. So what is, we said angle Z would be congruent with angle L. They're both blank. How do I find the measure of a missing angle if I have the other two? Add them. We get 157. Subtract from 180 to figure out what's left. We're not done. That makes 23 degrees. Go ahead and do number 8. All right, so let's look at this. When it says XY without a line above it, what does that mean? The answer's going to be a number. It means a length. So XY, we can answer the second part first. XY is congruent to what segment? MN. What's the length of MN? 8. So the length of XY is going to be 8. Here's what I need you to understand. Angles and line segments, like length of segments, have nothing to do with each other. I'll use this, I guess. Or I'll use it. What is the measure of the corner of my sticky note? Is 90, right? So even if I make this teeny tiny, it's still 90, right? Okay. What if I make the line segments longer? Is it still 90 degrees? Yes. The line segments, the length, have nothing to do with the measure of an angle, ever. Okay? So all of these numbers on the outside, 8 and 4, they are lengths of segments. The numbers on the inside with the little bubble, the little degree symbol, those are angle measures. These next few go quicker, so let's answer them. Angle R is congruent to blank. Thank you. Yep, 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 yep. Good. Angle R, you can look at this two ways. Angle R is the second letter, right? What else is the second letter? Angle H, or how many arcs does R have? 2, and H has 2. Next question. This is the last one we do before going to lunch. You need to find the values of X and Y. So these aren't triangles. They don't add to 180. They have 4 sides. So figure out what's congruent, y'all. One of them is wrong. I think X is wrong. You're correct. Go ahead and start. Mason, check one of them. Just check your math on the X. Correct. That's why. You can say that's X, that's good. Correct. You can start getting ready for lunch. Sorry, man. Where's your work? Okay. What was equal to X? What did you do with X? All right. The X is an angle. It's an angle F. What is F going to be congruent with in the other figure? B. So you should set them equal. Equal to 135. So then subtract 65 divided by 10 and X equals 7. With the Y's, Y is attached to E. What does E correspond with? A. So that means 4y minus 4 will equal 28. So X will equal 8.